What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Seahawks Now, the show where we keep you updated on all sorts of breaking news, content, rumors, updates about the Seahawks. So if you like what you see, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. It really helps the channel out. All right, guys, let's get into it. Today we're talking about one analyst who thinks the Seahawks will have a top 10 red zone offense in 2025, plus some Jalen Milroe doubters. We tackle the question, is Jalen Milroe really worth the hype? And we talk about Shaq Griffin and whether or not he's actually going to be signing a contract to make a return with the Seahawks. All that and more right here today on Seahawks Now. Let's get into it, guys. One NFL analyst believes that the Seahawks will have a top 10 red zone offense next year, and here's why. Michael Bumpus believes the Seahawks offense will be in the top 10 in the red zone. Here's what he has to say. He says during Thursday's 4-Down Territory with Seattle Sports Bump and Stacy that last year Seattle was number 14 in red zone percentage. He thinks this year they're going to get into the top 10. He says Clint Kubiak last year finished 11th in red zone percentage with the Saints at 58.1%, and that came despite a slew of injuries that left Kubiak with less talent to work with than what he'll have in Seattle. Last year in Seattle, obviously there's a couple of really bad red zone errors. An overtime red zone trip against the Rams that did not go our way. If we had scored on that possession, we would have beat the Rams in overtime and we would have won the division with 11 wins. So that's a huge difference. You know, it literally changed whether or not we made the playoffs or not. Kubiak last year, according to Michael Bumpus, the way he dresses things up, the way he layers things, the way he's going to commit to the run is going to allow for some multiple looks in the red zone. And that was something the Seahawks were lacking last year, is they didn't feel like they really trusted Geno to throw in the red zone. It felt like they were very one-dimensional in the red zone. But yeah, Michael Bumpus says the Hawks will be a top 10 red zone scoring offense by the end of the year. Obviously, they've upgraded their O-line. I think they've upgraded their quarterback situation. And he also believes that with rookie quarterback Jalen Milroe, they could make some kind of creative red zone packages for him. All that sounds really great to me. He says he looks at the offense and how it can be multiple. When you're able to pack things in like that, then spread them out, layer the offense up, play action boot, all that good stuff, that gives you more options in the red zone. And I agree. I like this take. I honestly feel like last year, for all it's said and done, 14th is not that bad. Considering that when I watched this team in the red zone, I thought they were like the worst red zone offense I've ever seen. And really, they were just 14th. So they actually did fine last year, all things considered, in the red zone. Now, again, it's not ideal. You want them to be better than 14, but it's not that far of a cry to think, yeah, this team could get into the top 10. Because I do think that Clint Kubiak, I don't know if he's necessarily a massive upgrade at coordinator over Ryan Grubb, but what he is he's better in the red zone. He proved it last year. The Saints' offense was terrible last year, but when they got to the red zone, they actually scored pretty often. Now, their struggle was getting to the red zone, and a lot of that was because Derek Carr was hurt. They were starting with, Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler. So that's obviously part of the problem for them last year was their quarterback situation. This year, Kubiak has a much better quarterback situation to work with. He gets Darnold, who I think is a lot better than anybody that the Saints had last year, even better than Carr. He's got, I think, comparable receivers, probably comparable running game, and I think a better offensive line at this point. Now that we've drafted Gray Zabel, I think if we stay healthy, our line is better than the Saints last year. So yeah, I think this is a better team. I think the Seahawks have a better team than the Saints did, and so because of that, I think that if we can get into the red zone more, we will be able to score at similar levels to what they were able to do last year under Kubiak's leadership. All right, let's move on to the Jalen Milroe doubters. This is what Daniel Jeremiah has to say. He doubts that the Seahawks' current rookie will grow into a franchise quarterback. He says he has a lot of doubters to prove wrong. The Seahawks, yeah, they obviously drafted him in the third round. They think he can be good, but he is a developmental prospect, and they believe they found their guy, but not everyone agrees that he is going to be the future. Here's what Daniel Jeremiah says. He was asked about it on Brock and Salk Radio, 710 Seattle. He gave a long pause, he says they can win some games with Darnold, but not a Super Bowl. So they asked him, do the Seahawks have their franchise quarterback? Daniel Jeremiah doesn't think Darnold is taking you to a Super Bowl, but they can win some games. Then they asked him, how about Jalen Milroe? Will he develop into a franchise quarterback for Seattle? Here's what he says. He says, I don't believe that. I just think there's so much distance to travel in the pass game. But I mean, hey, let's see where it all goes. I know there's a lot of raw stuff in there, a lot of ability in there, but it's just, to me, there's a lot of assembly required. He says Milroe have been praised as a strong leader who is looking to prove the doubters wrong. Perhaps this will be one more motivating voice for the rookie. Yeah, interesting things there. Honestly, as far as Jalen Milroe goes, I don't want to agree or disagree yet. I think I have to see him play. I think I have to see him maybe get a start or two to fill in for Darnold. I need to see him in some packages. I need to see how Darnold looks. I need to see him in minicamp. I need to see him in the preseason. There are some scenarios where guys are better than where they were drafted. I think Brock Purdy is an example of that. Brock Purdy was picked in the 7th round. Tom Brady picked in the 6th round. Dak Prescott was a 4th round pick. Now, you could say, well, Prescott and Purdy didn't win any Super Bowls. That's true. Neither did Kirk Cousins. Another guy came out of the 4th round and had a great career. So the question is, for a guy like Dak or Brock Purdy or Kirk Cousins, who, they bloomed from a day 3 draft pick. They bloomed into a starter, made a ton of money. But if you haven't won a Super Bowl, are you truly a franchise guy? I think they are. Especially Dak and Kirk Cousins. Maybe we'll see about Brock Purdy still, but I think it is safe to say that those guys who came out of the 4th round, they are franchise quarterbacks. So yeah, it can happen. But when you look at 3rd round quarterbacks, there hasn't been a lot. There really has not been a lot. Since Russell Wilson, the best 3rd round quarterback has been Jacoby Brissett. And that is not necessarily the most promising comp, because Jacoby Brissett, he started a handful of games in this league, but he's never really been a winner. He's never made the playoffs. He's been more of a career backup, kind of bounced around, played for a lot of different teams, couldn't really find a long-term home. And if that is the best round, that's the best player, the best quarterback that the 3rd round has had to offer in the past 12 years, you see why I'm not, super ready to jump on the Jalen Milroe train. I just have to see it, more of it, before I can really start to believe in him. So I do kind of agree with Daniel Jeremiah there. Hate to say it, but I do kind of agree. But let's move on to the last thing we want to talk about today, which is Shaq Griffin. No updates about the contract talks so far. This is interesting, kind of a non-news story here, but I am curious to hear, about 4 or 5 days ago, it was being reported that Shaq Griffin was close to a contract with Seattle, close to returning to Seattle, the veteran cornerback who had a nice kind of a bounce-back season as a nickel guy for the Vikings last year. And now all of a sudden they're saying, actually he's not. We have no updates. So is he coming to Seattle or not? I don't know. I gave you my take last week. I'm gonna kind of repeat that. Yeah, I think Shaq Griffin should come back to Seattle. I would love to see him in a Seahawks uniform again. I think he had a really nice bounce back year with Minnesota last year. I like where he's at. I like where his head's at. I think he's a good, solid player. He can really, I think he adds a lot to this team. So for me, I would like to see Shaq Griffin return. I would. I'm not necessarily sure why there's no updates. I'm not sure why that sort of seems to be stalling. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I guess I don't know what's going to happen there. I think he should come back, but maybe it's about the money. Maybe he's asking for too much. Maybe he wants more of a guarantee in playing time. I don't know, but I do hope he comes back to the team. All right, guys, that's going to leave things off for today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel down below if you want to see more content, because it does really help out the channel. And that all being said, we'll see you tomorrow, as always. Until next time, go Seahawks.